What if I told you that one of China's most beloved historical dramas might return? Sooner than anyone expected. And not just return, but come back stronger, deeper, and even more emotionally charged? Brace yourselves, because Xian and Yang Zi are stirring up the drama world again, and the wait might be almost over. Guo Se Fang Hua, known internationally as Flourished Peony, began as a modest weekend release on a domestic streaming site, yet within a few short weeks it slipped beyond China's borders and found a home in living rooms from Seattle to Seoul. Its rise was not powered by algorithms alone, it was nourished by artistry. Viewers wandered through a Tang Dynasty capital rendered in lacquered reds and golds, where the hush of silk on marble and the faint clang of temple bells made history feel vividly present. Midnight watch parties sprang up in New York, Madrid, Bangkok and Jakarta, linking audiences across 12 time zones in simultaneous wonder. Every thread in a sleeve and every shadow across a colonnade seemed chosen to remind us that the past still breathes. At the center of this rekindled world beat a romance both vulnerable and defiant. Tua Chongyang, outwardly reckless yet secretly principled, collided with Mao Duan, a merchant's daughter who turns adversity into self-reinvention. Their story suggested that courage is not the privilege of emperors, but the right of anyone willing to step beyond an allotted role. Viewers aged 18 to 75 recognized reflections of their own dilemmas, choosing integrity over convenience, love over certainty, and transformation over complacency. Global response was immediate. Search engines logged surges in queries for Tang poetry, traditional floristry, and silk dyeing. Travel boards began packaging weekend tours to filming locations, while language learning apps recorded spikes in enrollment for classical Chinese modules. Yet statistics barely touched the phenomenon. For academics, the drama has sparked conference panels on transnational television, while fashion designers cite its palette in upcoming collections worldwide. More revealing was the conversation beneath fan-made trailers, where strangers exchanged calligraphy tips, or the sight of a Filipino grandmother and her Canadian granddaughter synchronizing viewing schedules 6 time zones apart. The series became less a show than a communal archive of feeling, proving that good storytelling can braid cultures together. Because the first season ended in triumph yet left the future open, the prospect of an extended hiatus felt almost punitive. Fans braced for a multi-year wait, until quiet rumors surfaced that a second season had already wrapped filming and might return under the revised title Gan Tou Fang Hua. The speculation hinted at a deft maneuver around broadcast limits, and social media answered with the restrained excitement of people afraid to jinx a miracle. News feeds filled again with theory threads, volunteer subtitle projects, and a sudden vogue for Tang-era drapery. It is rare for a drama to grant its audience both aesthetic nourishment and emotional agency, rarer still for that gift to be renewed sooner than promised. Flourished Peony earned its reach by resurrecting a vanished era and inviting us to inhabit it. If the whispers prove true, the forthcoming season will not merely continue a plot, it will reaffirm the idea that shared imagination can leap censorship, scheduling rules and national boundaries alike, carrying the quiet conviction that history, when retold with honesty and care, belongs to everyone. Speculation surrounding the second season of Guo Se Fang Hua has unfolded like a clandestine game of chess, each carefully placed piece offering a fleeting glimpse of the board while refusing to reveal the decisive move. It began with a hushed exchange at a Prada beauty showcase in Shanghai, where Yang Zi, as luminous off-screen as on, spoke of the finale as only the prologue and promised that the next act was much closer than anyone dares hope. Her words were delivered almost casually, but the hush that rippled through the crowd suggested everyone understood they had just been handed a cipher. Weeks later, Xian answered a late-night fan comment on Weibo with the playful assurance that Season 2 will surprise you, because some stories refuse to sleep. It was the kind of ambiguous reassurance that could be dismissed as polite fan service. Yet longtime viewers recognized in his phrasing the steady confidence of an actor who has already walked the new narrative path and is merely waiting for the rest of us to catch up. Behind these public teasers lies a trail of quieter evidence. Production assistants, known only by first initials on industry forums, speak of grueling overnight shoots wrapped before the Lunar New Year, a schedule that would be impossible were filming still underway. Catering invoices surfaced briefly online showing location services marked completed 3 months earlier than budgeted. Even the costume department, famed for its silk embroidery that requires weeks of handwork, abruptly shifted staff to an unnamed modern project, implying their historical wardrobe commitments were fulfilled. Though such fragments are swiftly removed, the internet never completely forgets, and dedicated fans piece them together like archaeologists reconstructing a shattered vase. The most intriguing clue, however, concerns a whispered title change to Gan Tou Fang Hua. Chinese broadcast policy limits any single television season to 40 episodes and mandates a 12-month gap before a sequel may air. By submitting the continuation under a technically new title, while keeping the characters, actors, and creative team intact, the producers could legally circumvent the waiting period. To the uninitiated, this maneuver might appear cynical, yet to supporters it feels like an act of artistic rebellion, a pledge that storytelling, when fueled by genuine passion, will always find a legal yet imaginative path past bureaucratic checkpoints. Insiders hint that a revised title has already passed the initial rounds of regulatory review, an early-stage approval that usually remains confidential until marketing begins in earnest. The mere possibility that the green light has been granted turns every unofficial comment into a spark thrown onto tinder-dry anticipation. Still, the production team maintains studied silence, as though guarding a fragile germination that must remain underground until spring. That restraint, paradoxically, feeds the hope of millions. For fans scattered from Los Angeles lofts to Seoul subway platforms, from Parisian cafés to Manila night markets, each new rumor feels like a coded love letter, proof that the world they once inhabited through the screen is preparing to open its gates again. In this charged quiet, imaginations bloom. We picture sets already struck, footage locked in post-production vaults, composers weaving leitmotifs that bridge past and future. And so, without a single frame released, the second season has begun its life, not in theaters or streaming queues, but in the collective heartbeat of viewers certain that somewhere, just beyond the curtain, history is stirring and the next chapter waits, fully formed, for the moment it can at last step into the light. Season 2 promises to widen the lens from private survival to the vast choreography of empire, positioning Tua Chengyang and Mao Duan at the turbulent confluence of ambition, loyalty, and destiny. We will follow Chengyang beyond the discreet corridors where he once whispered reform into reality and into the blinding glare of court politics, where every bow is an act of negotiation and every parchment could become a death warrant. Rumors of his concealed noble lineage suggest more than a twist of bloodlines. They imply a reckoning with the weight of inherited duty, forcing him to choose whether the greater good can still be served by an outsider's daring once he is unmasked as an insider by birth. Mao Duan, no longer the runaway bride who arranged flowers to survive, steps forward as a strategist in her own right, wielding empathy and commerce with the precision of a general. Her evolution will test how love endures when two equals walk separate but converging paths toward the same fragile ideal of justice. Around them, new and formidable players gather. A brilliant court historian whose quill is sharper than any sword, a provincial warlord promising peace at the cost of submission, a widowed princess whose grief turns to political fire. Battles will not be confined to ramparts. They will rage across accountants' ledgers, midnight alliances, and the unspoken codes of the women's quarters, revealing that empires tilt as easily on whispers as on spears. Against this backdrop of siege engines and silk screens, the marriage of the story's heart must mature from sanctuary into crucible, forging a partnership strong enough to bear the future of a realm. Season 2 will therefore be less a continuation than an ascension, inviting viewers to measure courage not only by the victories won, but by the worlds preserved when power and tenderness meet. Long before the opening theme fades, the fandom of Guo Se Fang Hua is already awake and humming across continents. In Manila, office workers queue for jeepneys with earbuds tucked beneath masks, rewatching the final wedding scene on cracked phone screens. In Montreal, a retired librarian translates Tang Dynasty idioms for a Discord server filled with teenagers from Bangkok and Brisbane. A physics student in Seoul spends her midnight break sketching Mao Duan's hairpins, while in Madrid an insomniac chef experiments with rose petal syrups after seeing them in the Palace Banquet episode. Each gesture seems isolated, yet together they form a living current that exceeds any marketing strategy, a testament to the show's capacity to make strangers feel as if they share a single hearth. What binds them is not merely the spectacle of lacquered corridors or embroidered sleeves, but the intimate ache of watching two people defy the futures assigned to them. Viewers in their 20s recognize the restless pulse of choosing a life before it is chosen for them. Audiences in their 60s recall the stubborn tenderness required to keep love alive after the first blaze has cooled. Across forums and comment sections, personal stories surface like lanterns on a river. A Canadian nurse who whispered Chung Yang's vows to steady her hands during a 13-hour shift. A Thai grandmother who began learning Mandarin so she could discuss plot twists with her grandson. Such confessions reveal how fiction can slip past cultural borders and historical distances, lodging directly in the part of the mind that negotiates hope. The community's reach is measured not only in streaming numbers, but in the quiet acts of kinship it inspires. Fans organize charity drives under the actors' names, trade recipes, compose sub-lyric videos, and schedule global watch-alongs that roll westward with the Earth's rotation. It is here, in this mosaic of small courtesies and shared anticipation, that the real legacy of the series resides, proof that a well-told story can draw breath for millions, synchronizing hearts that may never meet yet beat, for an hour, in the same imagined past. Season 2 of Guo Se Fang Hua, or should we say Gan Tou Fang Hua, might be closer than we think. And if all these signs are true, we're in for a legendary return. Sparkle, stay with us as we follow every update, every leak, and every emotional twist from this breathtaking series. If you're as excited as we are, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification bell so you never miss an update on Guo Se Fang Hua Season 2. Speech Balloon, drop a comment below. What do you want to see happen between Cheng Yang and Mao Duan in the next chapter? Thank you for watching. Your support means everything. We'll see you in the next video.
Cœur scintillant.